Hello everyone and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. Today I'm going to be continuing with the Deku D.O Podfic. This will be part 6, chapter 7, and it is continuing with chapter 7 because chapter 6 in the actual fanfiction itself is just a collection of basically profiles on the characters. Really short and sweet. If you guys felt like you wanted to go and take a look at it, you can see some more descriptions of each of the characters, some of their likes and dislikes and such. But as for reading the actual fic itself, I'm going to continue on to chapter 7. Chapter 7 is entitled Surprise, Surprise. The silence hung heavy in the OR, creating a tension that draped along Izuku's back like a blanket. Izuku didn't dare speak another word. So are we going to pull the stick out of this guy's ass or what? Or not? You're the surgeon, Recovery Girl grit out between pursed lips. I am, Izuku confirmed. How long? I've been a full surgeon for just over a year. I started at the clinic as an 8-year-old. At that age, I mostly helped wash soiled linens and cleaned up messes. At 10, I started to study emergency first aid, and by 12, I had more training than your average EMT. At that point, I started studying surgery under Takahashi-sensei. At 14, I was allowed to conduct actual surgeries under supervision. And about a year later, I was approved to serve as a fully independent surgeon. Recovery Girl took a deep breath. Okay, I can't say I approve of this. However, the patient clearly needs emergency surgery. As I am an experienced, licensed surgeon, I will oversee your procedure. If at any point I feel you're unable to handle it, I'll take over the operation. You can't do that, Yoshida shouted at the same time that Izuku responded. That's fine by me. The two turned to face each other. Zuku-sensei, you can't really be going along with this. I don't see how this changes and is any different than normal, he shrugged. I have faith in my abilities as a surgeon. Yoshida bit her lip but gave a short nod. Fine, but so you know, she spun around to face Recovery Girl, Zuku-sensei is an amazing surgeon. Izuku interrupted before Recovery Girl could reply. All right then, let's begin the procedure. We don't want our patient under anesthetic any longer than necessary. Number 10 scalpel. Here, Yoshida carefully plucked the number 10 from the row of razor-sharp blades and laid it out on the tray next to her. Thanks. I will begin with the initial incision. Just as Izuku was about to press the blade to the patient's abdomen, Recovery Girl stopped him. What type of incision should you make and why? So that was how she's going to handle it? Well, Izuku had played that game before. I'll make a phanastile incision about 5 centimeters superior to the pubis symphysis in a curved transverse fashion. This will allow me access to the patient's pelvic cavity where the candle is currently lodged. Recovery Girl let out a short hum. And what is the greatest risk of this incision? The potential to accidentally perforate the bladder, Izuku answered promptly. Very well, proceed. Izuku nodded and pressed the edge of the scalpel laterally to the space between the patient's stomach, and steadily he pressed down and let out a slightly curved line about 8 centimeters long. Retractor, Izuku commanded. Gotcha, boss. Yoshida passed a wide, malleable retractor, which Izuku inserted between their bladder and the joint connecting their left and right pelvic bones. What's the next step? Recovery Girl crossed her arms. I will deepen the incision along the electrocautery until I reach the superior border of the joint, and then I will use my fingers to manually expand the dissection laterally along the superior pubic rami in both directions. On that note, I would like the cautery pen, please. Yoshida silently handed the pen to Izuku, who immediately began to deepen the incision. And next, Izuku cut off Recovery Girl, I will identify the rectum and palpate for the candle. Yoshida, because of the candle's semi-melted state, we will need to be extra careful to remove all of the wax. There isn't exactly a handbook on how to do this, so we may need to be creative. Be ready with the laparoscope to make sure we get it all. Right. Yoshida furrowed her brow in determination. Recovery Girl, would you mind passing me tools in the interim? Izuku asked pointedly. Very well. Recovery Girl agreed, moving to position between herself and Izuku in the tool cart. Great, thank you. All right, I've identified the rectum and am feeling for the candle now. There it is, number 10 scalpel. Recovery Girl pressed the blade into his hand. Thanks. Okay, I've made the incision. Izuku placed the blade down. Obstetric forceps. Here, Recovery Girl handed over the forceps to Izuku. Thanks. All right, I think I've got the majority of the candle. Izuku used the forceps to slowly pull the candle from the patient's abdomen, dropping it into the surgical tray with used tools. Yoshida, scope. On it. Yoshida carefully inserted the scope into the incision and turned on the light at the end. Izuku turned to face the monitor. That actually looks pretty clean, he hummed. There's a small piece to the left there from where the endoscope cut through the wax, but other than that, it looks like the candle was merely softened as opposed to being melted. Keep the scope there while I remove that last bit. Here are your forceps, Recovery Girl offered the tools to Izuku. Thanks. Izuku grabbed the forceps and, keeping his eye on the monitor, inserted them into the incision. And gotcha. You can remove the scope now, Yoshida. Aye, aye, Captain. Izuku dropped the remaining piece of candle next to the original and placed down the forceps. And now we just need to close them up. I need 2 suture kits, 1 polydoxine and 1 polypropylene. I've got them, Yoshida responded, grabbing the kits from a nearby shelf. I assume you want the polydoxine first? You know me so well. Why that one? Recovery Girl asked primly. Well, it's absorbable, should dissolve in about 90 days, and it's also less likely to scar, less prone to infection than gut sutures, and it's cheaper since it's synthetic. Money is always tight around here. And the other? Since the initial incision of the abdominal wall is a simple incision wound, we should see a monofilament non-absorbent suture being used, either this one or nylon. Since it's synthetic and this one will work just as well, it's likely to lead to less infection and it's cheaper. Izuku carefully opened the first suture kit and began to sew up the internal incision. Once he finished, he removed the retractor from the patient's abdominal cavity and began to use the second kit to close the initial incision site. Very even, Recovery Girl commented, eyeing the stitches. Not bad, Sonny. Thanks, Izuku grinned. All right, that's a wrap. Tool count? Give me a moment. Yoshida began counting tools on her fingers. All accounted for. Great. Then let's page Mari-san to take our patient to recovery and wean him off this anesthetic. Yoshida. Clean up. I know, she groaned. You always leave me with your messes. Yeah, but you love me anyways, Izuku teased. I love this job, Yoshida scrunched up her nose. Heaven knows why. At least I get to blast K-pop while cleaning. Benefits of being the OR nurse. Izuku grinned. Recovery Girl, let's clean up and we can chat on my break. We don't have a break room, but we can go to the internet cafe across the street for some privacy. Very well, she agreed. We most certainly have a lot to discuss. Izuku carried 2 cups of steaming instant noodles to the small table where Recovery Girl was sitting. Here you go. He passed the pink seafood-flavored cup over to her. You know this stuff is terrible for you. What can I say? I'm a doctor. We're the worst at taking care of our own health. We make terrible patients. You can say that again, Sonny, Recovery Girl chuckled. You are one of the worst patients that I've ever had. I'll take that as a compliment, he smirked, taking a large slurp of his spicy chicken ramen. You should. You may be a pain in my neck, but you're a good doctor, she said softly. Don't get me wrong. I do not approve of an unlicensed child, and don't interrupt me, you are a child, conducting unsupervised surgeries. If it wasn't for the fact that there seems to be literally nobody else willing or able to do the work, I'd remove you immediately. However, you were competent and careful, and I suppose it's better that it's you, as opposed to some random kid I'm not able to teach or keep an eye on. That's fair, Izuku sighed. If it helps, I've done a lot of surgeries. Some of them have been incredibly high risk and difficult. I mean, I did a craniotomy yesterday. I've successfully performed a thoracic aortic dissection repair. Sure, I've lost patients on the table before. Everyone has. Some of them may have lived if they had access to more experienced surgeons. I know that. However, I have never lost a patient due to avoidable medical error. Trust me, if my patients were able to access a licensed surgeon, they would. Unfortunately, I'm what the clinic can get, so all I can do is my best. That's all anyone can ask from you. Recovery Girl put down her cup noodles with a sigh. I may disapprove, but even I can recognize that you're doing some real good work here. Thank you, he repeated softly. So that's why we'll just have to continue to train you up, dearie. Recovery Girl offered Izuku a warm smile. I'm going to recommend you to take the National Preliminary Examination for Medical Practitioners as a part of your Provisional Hero Licensing exam. You will then undergo a 1-year practical training apprenticeship with me, which will consist of my supervision of your normal clinic duties, after which you should be eligible to take the national licensing exam. You would then be required to complete a 2-year residency, which, again, would just mean 2 additional years at the clinic. Izuku spit out his noodles. What? Seriously? I thought you had to be a foreign licensed practitioner to take that exam. There's a little-known clause that lets certain medical practitioners, those who have received the necessary qualifications from the Japanese Ministry of Education, to be allowed to take apprentices, recommend their apprentices for the preliminary exam as well. I happen to have these qualifications. You wouldn't be the first apprentice I sent through the exam. Okay, wow. Okay then. He blinked slowly. Natsuo-kun is going to be beyond jealous. Todoroki. He's currently slogging through his second year of medical school. So I'm guessing that none of the clinic doctors are licensed then. The day shift attending is a licensed veterinarian, if that counts. You know what? I'll take it, she chuckled. We should be getting back to the clinic. I still have most of a shift to observe. Now, you better prepare properly for your exam next week. There's only so much you'll know from practice. Shit, he cursed. What are the odds that the exam covers biophysics? Recovery Girl just smiled. The next morning saw Izuku bent over his desk in 1A's classroom, scribbling frantically into a study guide which Recovery Girl had printed off for him. A pile of Natsuo's biophysics books were balanced precariously beside him. Oh man, Natsuo had laughed uproariously upon Izuku's explanation. Good luck with that. Let me know if you need a tutor, Kohai-kun. Izuku finished his current question and moved on to the next one. 5. Your brain consumes about 22 watts of power, and avocados have been shown to promote brain health. If each avocado contains 310 calories, and your brain was powered entirely by the energy from the avocados, how many would you need to eat a day? This is stupid, Izuku moaned, slamming his head against the desk. Who powers their brain entirely by avocados? It wouldn't even work. Oh, are we talking about avocados? Avocado sushi is my favorite. Do you think Lunch Rush would make some for me today? Uraraka's cheerful voice interrupted Izuku's griping. Right. Izuku lifted his head just enough to see his friend. It wouldn't be my choice right now. Anyways, we have ultimate move training today. You should eat something with adequate protein, Ida tacked on sternly. Ah, yeah, I guess that's true, Uraraka placed a finger on her chin. But avocado sushi's so yummy. Maybe if I order tuna with it. That was right. Izuku still had to come up with 2 special moves, in addition to studying for both his heroics and medical provisional exams. Have you guys come up with any move ideas yet, aside from your Recipro Burst, of course, Ida-kun? Izuku asked. I'm not sure. My family has a move passed down through generations, which I'm hoping to replicate, but I haven't quite figured out if I'm physically ready for it yet. That's fair, Uraraka commented. I've been experimenting with combining the martial arts skills I learned from my internship with my quirk. How about you, Deku-kun? Well, I've decided to switch to a kick-based fight style to protect my hands, but I wouldn't really call it a special move. Maybe something that has long-distance attack power? I'm not really sure yet. That's okay, Uraraka grinned. We just have to keep playing around with it until something clicks. We still have some time to figure it out. That's true, he hummed in agreement. I should probably take a break from studying for the written exam anyways, and head over to the TDL for some practice training. You guys interested in coming? Thank you very much for your offer, Ida bowed stiffly. However, I have a prior engagement concerning my costume in the support department. No worries. Uraraka? I'm going to grab some lunch first, but I'll see you there after. I think some of our classmates are already there anyways. Okay, have a nice lunch. Izuku packed up his books and headed to the locker room near the gym to change into his uniform. Right, Izuku mumbled to himself as he made his way to his individual training area. Just play around until something clicks. The sound of battle noises and training reverberated through the gym. Midoriya, back for more practical training, Aizawa greeted him with his usual deadpan stare. I needed a break from studying from the written exam, Izuku shrugged. I'm not really sure how to proceed here, though. I'll spar with you, hand to hand. Perhaps you will think of something while we fight, Aizawa offered, setting into a guard stance. Yes, sensei. Izuku bowed quickly before positioning himself to match his sensei. Begin. The two immediately clashed blows before jumping apart, Aizawa expertly blocking Izuku's sidekick. Aizawa was quick and good at anticipating Izuku's movements. Izuku could hardly get more than a glancing blow off of him. Then again, he was a pro for a reason. Izuku would just have to fight smart against an opponent like Aizawa, not just hard. Ouch, Izuku hissed as he caught a particularly nasty blow with his shoulder. You're going to have to do better than that if you want to beat me, Izuku just grimaced. Aizawa wasn't using his capture scarf this time, but his fighting style focused on reach, meaning that he was relying primarily on his arms for defense and his legs for attack. That meant that Izuku was most easily able to touch Aizawa's arms when attacking. The ulnar and radial nerves ran through the upper and lower inner forearms and were good points for Izuku to target. There was also a pressure point between the thumb and index finger, which became vulnerable when making a fist. If Izuku could put enough pressure on any of these spots, Izuku dodged a kick aimed at his head and launched his own in return. Aizawa ducked underneath it. Damn it, if only I could hit you, he groaned. Aizawa was too fast for Izuku to be able to grab onto his pressure points for any real strength. Izuku would be lucky if he could lightly tap him, if there was only some way for Izuku to add force to those light touches. Wait. Izuku let out a wide grin and lit up with green electricity. Now you're getting it, Aizawa smirked, but you still won't be able to hit me. Watch me. Izuku took a deep breath and gathered 1% of One for All into his fingertips. He lashed out with a punch, and Aizawa lifted his arms to block. The time seemed to slow down. Izuku aimed his fingers for Aizawa's ulnar nerve, and as his fingers brushed Aizawa's arm, he released the stored-up power. 1% wasn't enough to cause any damage, but not with such little impact, but it did cause Aizawa's arm to light up in pain before losing all sensation. Ah! Aizawa shouted, jumping back and grasping his limp arm with his other hand. What the fuck, problem child? I aimed for your ulnar nerve and released 1% of my quirk when I touched it. I didn't put enough power to cause permanent damage. You should have full use of your arm back in a minute or two. Aizawa took a calming breath. Right, and you just happen to know where to hit. I had an anatomy phase as a kid, Izuku shrugged. It wasn't even a lie. There are dozens of major nerves and pressure points on the human body that I can target. And look, the power buildup was so minimal that I didn't even strain my fingers. The fingers on Aizawa's injured hand started to twitch. Either Aizawa's arm was regaining sensation or he was irritated. Likely both, Izuku had decided. Well, problem child, I guess you found your first ultimate move, Aizawa grinned. You won't get me with it again, though. We'll see, Izuku smirked. You don't even know where you need to protect. What will you call it? I'm not planning on shouting out its name in battle or anything, but what about numbing touch? Sounds about right, Aizawa agreed, flexing his hand. Now let's keep sparring. I want this to be second nature for you by the end of the day. Izuku made his way towards Recovery Girl's office later, his hair still dripping from his post-training shower. Ah, there you are, Sonny. I have your supplies ready. Trade you for this morning's review sheet, Izuku offered, pulling the physics study guide from his book bag. It's a deal. Recovery Girl took the packet from Izuku, smoothing out the wrinkles for him when Izuku had shoved it into his bag earlier. The supplies are in the neon green bag on my desk. Izuku walked over to the desk where, as promised, he found a neon green nylon bag with thick black shoulder straps. Izuku unzipped the bag, eyes widening in its contents. Everything's here, he gasped. You proved yourself last night, dear. I trust you not to misuse the equipment I've given you. Of course, you'll still have to wait for the oxygenator from Powerloader, but there's an ambu bag in there which should be an adequate substitute in the interim. I can't thank you enough, he said earnestly. Like I've said, you've earned it, Sonny. You did fairly well on the physics sheet. You missed 2 questions, but overall not too bad. Recovery Girl looked up where she was grading Izuku's work. That's good. Keep studying, and you'll do fine on the exam. You won't get a perfect score, but you'll pass, and that's all that matters. Right, Izuku winced. He couldn't remember the last time he'd gotten less than an 85% on any test. I just need to pass. Do you have another shift tonight? I still need to see you successfully intubate a patient and perform a needle thoracostomy before I can give you your emergency medicine certification. I have a shift every night except Sunday. I pull a double on Saturdays. Okay, then. Well, I'll let your attending know that you need those procedures and see if you can get them done in the next few shifts. Have someone at the clinic take a video and send it to me. The intubation would be no problem. It's a common procedure, and I'll see what I can do about the thoracostomy. It's not something we see too often. Well, worst case scenario, I just put in a request to have you show it on a cadaver at Musutafu Medical College, but I'd prefer if I didn't have to. The dean over there is rather unpleasant. I've heard complaints from Natsuo-kun, Izuku offered a sly smile. Apparently his mustache quivers during lectures. I'm told it's very distracting. Quite right, Recovery Girl let out a few chuckles. The man is one of the most self-important individuals I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. He places a great deal of pride in that mustache. Anyways, I have to leave soon. I'll see what I can do about the thoracostomy. I'll see you tomorrow, Sonny. Say hi to everyone for me and make sure to keep a clear head. Will do. Thanks, Recovery Girl Sensei. We are going to be spending a lot of time together, dear. Just call me Chio. Yes, Chio-sensei. I'll see you tomorrow. Izuku hefted his new supplies over his shoulder and started climbing the stairs. He had one more stop before heading to the clinic. Yo, Izuku-kun, May greeted exuberantly as Izuku entered the support lab. Guess you didn't get arrested then? Nope, though I think Chio-sensei nearly had an aneurysm when she realized I was a surgeon. Chio-sensei, huh? Tell me everything. Well, I don't have time for all the details now, he warned. Fine. Just give me the highlights and I'll grill you later. Izuku shuddered slightly in justifiable fear. Right. So essentially, Chio-sensei has a way to let me take the National Preliminary Exam for medical practitioners, which will be tacked on to the written portion of my provisional hero licensing exam. If I pass, I'll have a 1-year apprenticeship with her before I take the full exam. So you'll be a real licensed surgeon. Hey, I am a real surgeon, Izuku elbowed May playfully, but essentially yes. That's amazing, Zuko-kun. Natsu-kun will be so jealous. That's what I said, he laughed. Although, now that I think about it, I could use some help while studying for the biophysics part of the exam. Natsu just dumped a bunch of textbooks in my arms and laughed maniacally. You've come to the right girl. May proudly pointed her thumb at her chest. I happen to be an expert in physics. I'm sure biophysics won't be that much different from regular physics. The body has to follow the same laws as the rest of the universe, after all. Thanks, May. Izuku shot her a relieved smile. I have all this practical knowledge, but that will only take me so far on this kind of written, standardized test. Never fear, for May is here, she proclaimed in a deep, booming voice. Please, Izuku begged, never do an All Might impression again. I'll have you know I do excellent impressions. You really don't, he sighed. Anyways, I do need to be heading out soon. I just wanted to check in and see if you had a timeline for my support gear before heading to my shift. Good news, we got the go-ahead on the oxygenator from Recovery Girl. It'll take a while for me to figure out, but I embrace the challenge. In the meanwhile, I should have your pants and tool belt ready for you tomorrow. Thanks, May. You're a lifesaver. That's what I'm here for. Now you go on, or you're going to be late for your clinic shift. And remember, you owe me the details. I will be holding your pants hostage until you fess up. At that exact moment, Power Loader had walked into the lab. I don't even want to know. He spun around and promptly walked right back out. Well, guys, that's conclusion for Deku D.O, Part 6, Chapter 7. I will have a new video uploaded with the next chapter, which will be Chapter 8, as soon as possible. Hope you guys like this section. I really like Recovery Girl in this one and her reaction to everything. So let me know your guys' feedback and any suggestions for other fics, as always.